challenged us in school. This guy is a Rhodes Scholar. This guy is Harvard trained. In other words, the cream of the crop, somewhere near the top, is this guy. He's running for president, but being at the top throughout high school, he got somewhere I never could get. That was, if I'm not mistaken, you were valedictorian. Huh? And he's modest about it. If I was valedictorian, I'd be like, hey. Someone who's smart on the issues.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And so we have a barrage of candidates on the issues. We've been listening to them. And so this morning, I want to thank Kate and them. I want to thank the Greenville County Democratic Party. I want to thank Upstate Circle of Friends for giving us Democrats the opportunity to hear from someone with this quality who has stopped by to talk to us about 2020. And now, I'm smart enough as a lawyer to know that I could butcher this last name. I've been asking, and somebody else has been asking, and we've been talking, and we've looked at the pronunciation, and it's just like the White Lofters, we cannot get it right. And so, what I have learned to do here, and what you are going to help me do, in welcoming them to Senate District 7, this candidate, is that on 3, not on anything else, but 3, we are all going to say, I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, welcome. And then you're going to say, Mayor Pete. And we're going to do that because of the energy in this room 3 times. And at the end of that 3rd time, we're going to get a Rhodes Scholar, we're going to get a Harvard-trained graduate, we're going to get a public servant since 2012, we're going to get somebody that has changed Indiana and now wants to change the United States of America. My time is up. 1, 2, 3. Welcome, Mayor Pete! Welcome, Mayor Pete! Welcome, Mayor Pete!
Legislative update. It is so important. I know that I come here by way of the 2020 process, but I also believe passionately, and this is one reason why I'm excited to be out there knocking on doors for Tina pretty soon. I believe passionately that it would be a terrible mistake for our party to treat the presidency like it's the only office that matters. That's right. Senator Belgie, everybody who is in those state houses and those local offices, which is why I want to thank you for your county work, because the county chair and committee and volunteers are the unsung heroes of our party.
Yes, we are.
That is where so much important work is done. That is where, if the wrong people are in, they can get away with murder. And if the right people are in, they can make so much change that the rest of the country has to turn and take notice. And so I'm proud to stand with state legislators and county and local officials doing the right thing. And I'm so proud to be here in front of you. I get that my presence here is a little bit unlikely. It is not customary for a millennial Midwestern mayor to be involved in a conversation about the future of the free world. So I probably ought to spend a minute letting you know why I still think it's time for that. Why a mayor? First of all, because of the reasons I was just talking about. I know that it's more traditional to spend a few decades marinating in Washington before anybody talks about you going up the street to the White House. But I would also argue that we would be better served if Washington started looking more like our best-run cities and towns instead of the other way around. I get that you might expect somebody from a big city and a big state to be the voice of our party. That's just what people have gotten used to. Well, that's why it might not be such a bad thing if people from redder states were some of the faces of democratic values. Just heard that my former governor is going to be visiting your state soon. I think you already know how I feel about my former governor. Yeah. Helps me empathize with you on that whole Lindsey Graham thing. That is precisely why people like that are not the only people that our states should be sharing with the political world. And we need voices from communities, mid-sized communities, communities whether they be rural or industrial, like my home, where I grew up, having taken on board the message that the only way to succeed was to get out. That's what so many young people in the industrial Midwest believe. I believed it. And I left, only to learn the further and further away I got from home, that purpose would lie for me in returning. Right now there's this message being sold to communities like ours, coming out of the White House, that the only way to our hearts is resentment. That the only formula for our communities to succeed is to stop change, turn back the clock, and go back to the 1950s.
No.
No.
That's the problem. There's two problems with Make America Great Again. First problem is the 1950s, for a lot of us, were not as great as advertised. And the other reason is that politics is about responding to change, not pretending you can make it go away. Which is why there is no such thing as an honest politics that revolves around the word again. Now, I also get that it is not traditional to do this when you're in your 30s. You're supposed to have a few more silver hairs, although I sprout a new one every time I turn on cable news. So by the end of this season, maybe I'll get there. But I also believe it's time for our generation to be putting forward more leaders. I think a lot about how the world's going to look in 2054. Because that is the year that I will reach the current age, God willing, of the current president. I can hear that sinking in. It is a personal concern what the world's going to look like then. And we're in trouble if we do not change things. My generation is used to being in trouble, by the way. I was in high school when the Columbine shootings happened. We have come to be known as the generation of school shootings. We are the generation that will be picking up the pieces of climate change. We already are. Look no further than Nebraska. Look no further than the Carolinas. We are the generation that is poised to be the first in American history to earn less than our parents economically if nothing is done to change the trajectory of our society and our economy. We can't let, and by the way, not for lack of commitment and effort, because we're also the generation that put forward most of the troops after 9/11. Occasionally friends remind me that I got to keep my posture up. I don't know why, but I got to tell you, just speaking of troops after 9/11, when we pulled up here in the driveway, we were met by these great young volunteers in uniform, and then the drill instructor came up and tapped on the van. Now, the last time I saw a drill instructor in South Carolina, I was up the road at Fort Jackson learning how to be a what they call a dirt sailor, which is the sailors who were sent to do Army stuff. And so as soon as I met drill instructor, it was drill instructor Sullivan. I don't know if he's still here. My spine just went We are ready to offer leadership from this generation. And what's so exciting about this is that this does not have to represent generational conflict. What I see, and I saw it just now in the way that folks are rallying around getting ready for next Tuesday in that special Senate election, is a generational alliance to make sure that the future is better than the past. And this is what that alliance looks like. So, you can clap. So I think when you come from that different background, it fills you with a different vocabulary. I don't think we need different values. I believe in the values of this party. That's why I'm doing this. But I do believe we could adjust the way we talk about it just a little bit. And it's one of the reasons why you always hear the word freedom on my lips. We've allowed our conservative friends to get a monopoly on the idea of freedom. Now, they care about freedom, but they care about a very specific kind of freedom. Freedom from. Freedom from regulation. As though government were the only thing that can make us unfree. But that's not true, is it? We know that your neighbor can make you unfree. Your cable company can make you unfree. If they're telling you who you ought to marry, your county clerk can make you unfree. If you're afraid to start a small business because leaving your job would mean losing your health care. You're not free if there is a veil of mistrust between you as a person of color and the officers who are sworn to keep you safe. You're not free if your reproductive choices are being dictated by male politicians. So don't let anybody tell you that the other side is the side that's got a handle on freedom. We are the party of freedom, and we shouldn't be afraid to go out there and say it. Let's talk about democracy. I believe that the name of our party is what it is for a reason. That we are the ones who believe that when everybody can vote, our country is better off. And if anyone in politics thinks more people voting means they're going to lose, So let's make sure every citizen can vote. And while we're at it, at risk of sounding simple-minded, I would argue that when we have an election for president, we ought to make it so the person who gets the most votes actually gets the Now let's talk about security. Because this is my bumper sticker. You know, they say Democrats can't put what we believe on a bumper sticker. That's our problem. My bumper sticker is freedom, democracy, and security. But we got to talk about security in a bigger way. There's a lot more to security than putting up a wall from sea to shining sea. When you are taking the long view, there is a lot that goes into security. The things that won World War II and the Cold War, it was not just the impressive quality of our military equipment or the courage of our soldiers. You know what else helped us win those conflicts? Quality public education in this country. 21st century security requires thinking about the big picture. The other side can't do it. Cybersecurity is a major threat, but they cannot protect us from that threat because it is politically embarrassing for them to admit how it harmed our democracy when we were attacked. Climate security is a major threat, but we are not having a debate between whether our plan's better or their plan's better. We're having a debate between our plan and no plan. Keep us safe from cybersecurity because they're obsessed with putting up a wall. They can't keep us safe when it comes to climate security because they can't admit that there's a problem. And they cannot keep us safe from the clear and present threat of violent white nationalism. Claiming lives of peaceful worshipers half a world away in Christchurch, or whether it comes to harm us right here in South Carolina. That is a threat, it is a security issue, and we cannot keep us safe from that if you think that that movement is made up of very fine people. Good thing we got a better way. Good thing we have an approach that is inclusive, that is forward-looking, that grounds our policies in our values. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about our values. We're Democrats, we go right into the policy. That's what we do. We got our 14-point plan, we got our binder, we got our PowerPoint. But let's never forget to talk about our values. And let's never forget to talk about how these things cash out on the ground. Because the whole reason we have politics, the whole reason we do any of this, is because it makes everyday life different. My everyday life is different because people in positions of power who had power over me made decisions. I felt it when I was packing my bags to come to Columbia and go to Fort Jackson and learn combat training before I went overseas. I learned what's at stake when a president signs an order. I learned it in the most painful way a few months ago when I found myself driving to the facility where my father was in the middle of a chemotherapy treatment while my mother was awaiting surgery to tell him that it turned out what she needed wasn't a stent, it was a triple bypass. Not the kind of thing you want to put in a text. So I went out to find him. Mom's fine, by the way. Dad didn't make it. But I had two things going for me on that drive and in the weeks and months that followed. One of them was my marriage. A husband who can lift me up, who was waiting there with my mother, because he could get into the hospital, because he was a member of our family. A marriage that has made me safer and better, and yes, Mr. Vice President, has moved me nearer to God. And the other thing I had going for me was Medicare. I make decisions for a living, and nothing could have prepared me for the decisions my family faced in those last few weeks. But all we had to weigh when we were making those decisions was what was right for our family, what was right medically for my parents. What we didn't have to think about was whether it would lead to bankruptcy in our family because people made a choice to give us health care. Vulnerable moments, that can make all the difference. And that's why every American ought to have that same assurance when it comes to health care. So that's who I am. That's why I'm doing this. Off, but I'm feeling pretty good about it. The one thing I know for sure is that running for office, helping somebody who's running for office, knocking on doors like we're going to do in a minute for somebody who's running for office, is an act of hope. Yeah, it is. So with our hearts filled with hope and with a very clear sense of the values that make us tick, let's go out there and let's show them a better way.